Why, hello everyone, and welcome back to Nullius. This is Otaku Showboat, and today, going into our next recording session here, there have been two updates to the Nullius mod to start off with, 1.1.5 and 1.1.6. Of note here is we've got the Turbine priority level change / update in 1.5, changes turbine colors, etc., makes a few balance changes, not anything of particular note that's relevant to us outside of the whole new 3 priority levels of turbines. And then 1.1.6 adds stuff for the beginning of the game. Iron Ingot 2 recipe uses less graphite but slightly more ore, and they made Iron Ingot 1 a slightly slower recipe. I'm not exactly sure why, when it already takes quite a lot of initial furnaces to do that recipe, but maybe it's an issue with being too few buildings in the later phases of the game rather than it being an issue with the too few in the early game. I have also added Ore Eraser. Note that this is the mod that is this very specific link. There are others for the current version of the game. There is an Ore Eraser continued as well. I'm just using this one as it is. Why? Because I'm building rails, and I don't want to build on top of ores. That's it. That's the only reason. Just get rid of the ores I don't really plan on using. And I think that is it. Let's get into the game, because there is quite a bit to talk about right here at the very beginning. I would suggest joining my Discord, because I do talk about a lot of the things that I end up doing off screen on my Discord, as well as sometimes post like previews of what's to come in the series. It's a great place to just be to get updates from me on the status of the series. So we have 2,652 logistics bots now. And I've added a few construction bots into my network. There's 299 currently. Don't know why there's one off of 300, but sure, we'll go with that. Here's the new priorities levels on turbines. Currently have access to the backup and the standard 1 and 2 turbines. And this did break a couple of recipes. It converted a little weirdly, because some stuff went in recipes to the standard turbine 2, but like the entities went to the backup turbine on the recipe request. Something weird, some weirdness. So a few recipes I had to change which priority level of turbine it was requesting in the requester chest. But that's fine. I did the thing there. I have also, as we walk down here, put in compressed nitrogen backup turbine production through these surge compressors. This is significantly more efficient than doing the hydrogen and oxygen into steam combustion. Vastly more efficient. It's still a loss overall in power, so it's not something that we can really do for a main source of energy, because you do lose a few hundred kilowatts out of this. It's consuming 1 megawatt to run the surge compressor, and the surge compressor is making, I think, 45 compressed nitrogen per second from the current setup that I have. Of course, I've maximized efficiency wherever possible. That would be the reason why these don't have module slots, why the surge electrolyzers and compressors and such, and just in general don't have module slots, is so that they can't have efficiency to cheese this system into being net positive, because it's not intended to be net positive. And let me just have a test with a beacon with a thing there, and we can see that the beacon does not transmit to the surge compressor, the efficiency. I don't think it would transmit the speed either. Yeah, it does not transmit the speed either to these compressors. Why? Because they don't have module slots. And they've very specifically been set to not be beaconable either. Now, I have built this with hangers so that I can scale this automatically, well, automatedly, with my robots. And I did the same down here with my few solar panels in my solar panel array. I have a few more now. 5,700, of which 4.9k have been placed. Yeah, that's making 490 megawatts-ish when it's active, thus all of the backup turbines ever as well. I played around a little bit with this. I am not impressed at all with this mechanic in general. Like, it's fine to know that how it works. I just don't think it's useful. Especially not before getting access to heat tanks. Because yeah, if this had heat tanks, those basically act as built-in batteries, and you could power an entire base off of this alone without need of any backups whatsoever. There's some use to these collectors, these heat producers with heat exchangers, potentially for dealing with some water stuff that's byproducts without needing an outfall, but outside of that, I don't see too much of a point to their entire existence. You know? Not compared to solar panels. Like, I will take the far more UPS efficient, like the most UPS efficient thing in the game in solar over any other solution for power. Period. Especially when we're not limited by space. Speaking of not being limited by space, I got rid of the old battery array. I mean, that should be pretty clear when I've got the far more efficient compressed nitrogen build over here. I'm not using the surge electrolyzers anymore. I kept the saline processing because I do have a bit of a demand for saline in here, but that's not going to last forever. That is not going to last forever because I've done a few things. We're at 61 hours and 40 some odd minutes now. And I want to make note that not a single train is operational at this moment in time. Just so we're clear. I have not turned it on for the amount for trains moving around and delivering things yet, because we need to have fuel for said trains. Provided as a fuel stop right here. I want to make the methanol canisters, and that is what we are going to do today. We are going to make methanol canisters, but I need to have a look at a few things. I do want to note that it takes a very long time to place the rails with my robots. After much deliberation, I decided to maximize my energy gain in my chassis rather than to have an extra hanger. Yes, this cost me a extra charging point. It doesn't matter all that much to me having that extra charging pad. I'd rather be able to fully power the hanger at all times, to constantly have my robots out and working, because what ends up happening if I have another hanger, I did briefly have 2 hangers with 20 active robots at a time in here and the charging pad. They go out, they do their work pretty quick, but then they come back and you have to wait a very long time to recharge. So I just decided, you know what, charging is the bottleneck here, so I'd rather just have the 10 out at all times doing work for me. It does also slightly reduce the size of my construction coverage area around me. You can't really see it where I'm currently standing, but yeah, I have erased ores. I have erased ores. Yes, it works on this stuff. The ore eraser will erase the ores, and only the ores, not the rocks, sadly. I would very much like a rock eraser, especially with alien biomes. But anyway, that is that. Let's go through some of the first things that I did, sort of in the order that I did them. Mining of iron and limestone exists over here, tapping into the ones that I had marked in the previous episode, or episodes, parts. It's just a red belt right now on the mining of all of the things. That will, of course, get scaled as we go along. I am using mini loaders to load into chests, etc., etc. This would be one of the reasons why I would use bulk rail loaders previously. Cough, cough, because they count as both a warehouse and the fast loading, meaning that I wouldn't need to do the back end stuff here. Like, this will get messy. This will get very messy if I try to completely maximize all of the things here. Like, I need a freaking massive splitter balancer back here, a massive balancer, or, you know, have a whole bunch of independent inputs, but whatever. You know, there's the concept of belt balancing that we need to consider as well, and that's a lot of space that's needed between tracks. In fact, this isn't enough space. Oh yeah, I designed the train station. But BTW, I have train stations. These are very, 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 very simple train stations. I've designed them basically like this in the past. It's a very minor variation of ones that I've used. Gosh, when did I last use it like this precisely? Train stations in general will have 3 parts with Train Supply Manager as I use it. One is a waiting area. One is the station area that is either supplying or requesting items in here. And then there is the depot area, which is technically supplier train stops, but I just call it the depot, where the trains from the supply stations, the regular standard train stations, loading stuff, go to sit until they get requested by the rest of the network. Now, that is achieved. I've got 3 spots the trains will sit at each of these rail signals. I've made sure that we've got enough space for the trains to sit between the something gets requested, if there needs to be anything requested, they'll go up and they'll go and they'll deliver the things, and then stuff can then leave through here without needing to go into this depot zone at all. That is the one slight change that I have made this time around, is adding this piece to be the shortcut for any requester trains coming in, delivering stuff, and then immediately leaving, rather than having to go through a line on the depot to get back out again. Of course, it's quite long to do this way, but we have the space. So I decided to use the space this time for these train stations. I've already discussed the requester logic for stations that have the requesters that was done in a previous video. So basically, all of these exist here and are able to scale infinitely off this direction. Cough, 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 cough. I've got stuff here that I might want to move out of the way. If I'm doing aluminum processing here, I'm gonna need a few more depots. Might want a few more depots here. Actually, that is enough room, I think, for another 4 or 5. 3. That's enough room for another 5. So, that's fine. I don't think I'm going to need any more than the 8 from this station. Of course, I will build on the other side of where the stuff scales. Usually. Down here, we've got the bauxite and the sandstone getting mined at the same red belt of throughput. Over here, plastic plus rubber in the exact same build as we've done down here. Yeah, remember this? All of this? Alkene synthesis and demolition of alkene stuffs, overflows? It's being done at a little bit bigger of scale over here now, and through the power of fresh water rather than saline into water. Which means that this is a zero input factory. This is a zero input factory. All of this is voiding the alkenes. This mess is alkene voiding to get all the chimneys and such placed and all the pipe work done, all the oxygen provided in necessary amounts to get combust all this excess stuff. It looks pretty neat with all that smoke smoking out like that. But yeah, this is a lot of distillery 2s. It's a lot of chemical plant 2s, and quite a few flotation cells, and so on and so forth. How much does it make? It makes 7.5 plastic per second. All of these entities and buildings make 1/2 of a yellow belt of plastic and 4.5 rubber on top of that. So 4.5 rubber, 7.5 plastic. If that seems a little weird, it's because I originally planned it out at 15 and a 9 and then cut it in half because it would be way too much fluid throughput to have to deal with in a single build. But if I want more, I can copy the whole thing and paste it wherever I want. And I can copy part of it, like just the plastic, and paste it wherever I want. It's really nice that way. All I have to deal with is wastewater voiding. That's all I need to do is deal with the wastewater. That is that build. The next part is the caustic solution and sodium hydroxide that I did up here. Again, this train doesn't have any fuel, but there we go. I took what we already were doing and made very small modifications to it. Now, the one thing about this is there are byproducts to have to deal with. Chlorine to have to deal with in here. Chlorine and hydrogen from the sodium hydroxide production. This does need seawater, and I do have intake 2s now, which have 600 pumping speed each. I need a little bit more than 600, like 7 something, on these hydro plants over here, producing brine. Exclusively doing the brine, by the way, because as it turns out, for caustics, I did matrix solver on here, and it actually ends up producing more water than needed to produce caustic when distilling the saline in here, which was used to get the brine. So what I've done here is I've processed with yield modules. If I didn't have these yield modules here, I would actually need to electrolyze something else. Do the other recipe for sodium hydroxide to make up for the fact that we just don't have enough brine coming out of this system overall. Like it would balance this saline recipe as well with the matrix solver. It would want to use extra saline because we'd end up with enough of an overabundance of stuff. It just works out mathematically that we could do both of these recipes to produce the caustic output. Now, it's going to be the same amount of chlorine and hydrogen out no matter what we do, so I just decided, you know what, let's save one entire recipe by just yield modulating here to get enough brine to get as much as I need for my intended output. And yes, this is 500 out on caustic that this is built to, as well as all of the other infrastructure to deal with the excess close to 200 chlorine in the end. Now, this is what we've seen before. This has something new as part of it. Yeah, I'm getting water through fresh water on here. I'm making hydrochloric acid. That's all well and good. I'm bringing in an extra red belt of limestone to deal with this hydrochloric acid. Now, this produces stone. The stone gets crushed down into the mineral dust. The mineral dust has to be dealt with by converting it to sludge and then converting the sludge into wastewater. And that gets dumped in all my dumps over here. That's why I built this near this shallow water. This needs to happen preferentially, which is why I have this pump here pumping out the hydrochloric, and why I have this relief valve here to send out remaining amounts of the stuffs into the other side, which is taking the crushed limestone, rather than crushing limestone down into mineral dust. What I've done is I've just decided, hey, we have access to a calcium chloride solution recipe. So we're just going to take our limestone and make calcium chloride solution out of the hydrochloric acid, the rest of it, and get rid of the carbon dioxide by venting it and then dumping the calcium chloride solution, which is dumpable in the outfalls. That's what I've done over here for a 500 per second caustic build, and then overflow some sodium hydroxide. I do understand that, yeah, I'll probably have to copy the entire build again to have dedicated sodium hydroxide solution or sodium hydroxide at some point, but we shall see about that. 26 minutes later, let's head over to the fuel build and get the fuel build done, because that is the final factory to talk about and to complete, so that we can start seeing our trains move. A thing I will note, at my mall, I have put in a requester chest down here that is taking my empty canisters and shoving them down into this one building from the bus that I was making the methanol canisters originally for my car, so that I could provide some methanol canisters in the end, so that I have access to some methanol canisters. Why do I need that? Because as I go around the base and plonk down additional trains, I want to be able to fuel those trains so that they can get moving, and they won't have to refuel for a very, very, very long time. I've done the same thing for empty canisters here, and brought them all the way from here onto the red belt and up. So, over here, I plan on this area not only being a fuel stop for my trains to get fueled, but also a place where I will have initial lube as well as some extra methanol. I hope for extra. I hope for extra methanol here. Now, lube needs silicon ingots, so I've gone and I took the local sandstone, mined it, and processed it into silicon ingots. This also needed graphite. So I went and I built out the graphite. It's the same thing that we've always been doing, just with freshwater water rather than saline electrolysis and such in here. Rather than seawater into saline into water into electrolysis. But we have done this already to get graphite. It's just this is a different way of getting graphite. And this is from nothing, meaning I have a blueprint for graphite from nothing. It has wastewater to deal with, and you'll want to deal with the wastewater. You'll need to deal with the wastewater. But yeah, I now have these as blueprints, and I used it at my mall. Why bother having charcoal on trains if you can just plonk it down? If you can just plonk the factory down to give you charcoal, it's like 7 something that it makes. I didn't really pay too much attention to how much this particular one makes. It's the amount that I need to get into the lube in the end. And then this over here is actually the plastic build modified slightly to get benzene rather than the other 2 alkenes. Just benzene for the methanol in the end, the methanol canisters in the end. Now, this isn't complete because I need 4 additional buildings here. Let's bring up methanol canisters. Oh, joy. And get a pin down so we can actually get working on this. These 4 are making methane. Whoops, that is not where you need to go. I may need to move this a little bit further away. I may want to move this over to here, actually. Yes, that's what I'll do. Is everything still powered? Yes, good. So I need to do that. You can be one tile pushed back. Get rid of that because it's a different stuff entirely. This is carbon monoxide. This is carbon dioxide. There, there, there. I think I have a dedicated hydrogen line for this. I'm trying to remember. How did I hydrogen? Because this actually uses a lot of hydrogen by itself. And I had... Okay, so that bottom line provides to you. It's this top line. Okay. Bring this dedicated line down. That's gonna do wonders for me. Ooh, you produce water as well. Fortunately, I have a way of dealing with this already, just built in like so. Essentially, the water cycles back into my electrolysis, and I have the hydro plants here on a top-up valve, so I should always be using the quote-unquote waste standard water that gets produced out of all of this. Now get this guy over to here, and that is the methanol, or the methane, being produced. Now to make that into methanol by adding oxygen with 9 glorious, beautiful chem plants right there. I need this infrastructure. And then the output is just 1. Now, this does not make much methanol. Just so as we're clear. That's not much. That is not much. Oxyist of oxygen. Come here. Pretty sure I have enough oxygen. I had better. You can see sometimes these bots do slow down. I just pick them up and then they will go and do more missions for me. Much more consistent than having the 20. Always taking all of my power. That is an auxiliary, so yeah, I should have plenty of oxygen for you. There we go. Add methane. Of course, I made it perfectly align with the oxygen rather than the methane. There you go. Now we have methanol. That's all of that, actually, taken care of. And I've brought in empty canisters, so now we make our methanol canisters out of 2 entire chem plants. Get rid of these rocks. These rocks, they bother me. I don't like their existence. We must get rid of those rocks. All rocks must die. Extremely painful deaths. Okay. More oxygen. Oh boy. And that guy. Alright, well, let's go ahead. I've got a solid input. And a solid output. You know what? I'm gonna stick these here. Flip that around. There you go. And that will be that. Give me the oxiest of oxygen. Give me my methanol. And give me my benzene. Which I did end up looking up the alkenes. Alkenes are molecules involving double bonded carbons. Generally. There's actually some debate as to what is exactly an alkene versus other stuffs. Like there's a name that you can use to refer to the class, and it's like scientists are trying to push it not to be alkene exactly. That the alkene specifically cannot be cyclical. Benzene being cyclical. But yeah, it is colloquially, he says, as if it's actually a word that's used in general parlance. Nah. But anyway, yeah, alkenes, just double bonded carbon. That's all you need to be considered alkene. So benzene would be considered an alkene because it does have double bonded carbons. So what's the term for things with a triple bonded carbon, I wonder? Carbons can have up to 4 bonds. So, and they do end up triple bonded to each other sometimes. I want to put this into a massive chest. Yes, glorious. Now, you may or may not have noticed a slight trick that I did. Right down here. This. As trains come in to refuel, they're going to have empty canisters. So, they need to have those canisters removed, and I want to reuse those canisters. Essentially. So, we're going to put them into the chest, and then they are going to get preferentially used here. Hopefully. Also, these red belt underground lengths are really nice. And just to make sure that I'm always going to take out faster than I put in, I'm going to have an extra inserter removing the empty canisters than I am the inserters adding the full ones in. And that is automated methanol canisters at my fuel stop. It's been 40 minutes of recording time so far. Yeah, this is definitely a moment. I do not intend this to stay here. Just so as we're clear, I did not intend this to stay here. I intend to have the methanol canisters getting made in a separate factory. Completely. Dedicated methanol canister factory separately that will be sending it to fuel stops. Dedicated just fuel stops. Same thing with the lube and methanol supplies. I want to have a dedicated lube build, not here. This is all currently temporary. but useful as it stands. So now I can do things like add in methanol canisters into my trains without fear of issues of any kind. Alright, give me my car. I want more of my methanol canisters right here. More. Because I need to actually plonk and assign locomotives to a few train stations. I've already taken the opportunity and assigned supply priorities for each of the ore types, as well as methanol, lube, sodium hydroxide, caustic solution, plastic, and rubber. Now I get to add trains for all of these things. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to have to go to my mall to finish this, but this would be my iron ore supply depot, full cargo, circuit condition, automatic, and now we get to see just how speedy the trains are. Huh. Well, I mean, as long as it moves, we're good. Yeah. As long as you, move, we should be good. Right? We better. Well, it moves. Ahem. It's a little slow. But, it moves, at least. It is just within the bounds of my supply stations here. Yeah. And then, over here is where I intend on doing some iron processing. Oh boy. Oh boy, so I'll just get in my car and put in a request over here so we can see how Train Supply Manager works. That sounds like a great idea. Let's actually have a train moving and doing some work, at least temporarily, until this area fills. Huh? This is iron ore at iron processing. This is not going to need one of these. This is a fuel output for lube. Right. I need... you in reverse. So please plonk everything and then reverse all of these. Thank you. Thou shalt reverse. Okay. And then you. This button doesn't work, by the way. If I push this button and I don't have anything to find, the game will crash. So, let's get something defined. Iron ore. I suppose if I've had a train path that's 1,000 tiles or longer. The train is, in fact, on its way. That's, a little slow there, buddy. I hope that the next trains have better pulling power than these, because, yeah, that max speed and acceleration power Needs a bit of work. Needs a bit of work. Now, of course, rather importantly, I need to hook up that wire. That wire is incredibly important. And I will need to adjust my value here off of 4K. This looks like it maxes its chest at 4K. 5, okay. That's a little close. So you're actually going to be set to 2, which is going to mean 4,000 in the end to zero out the value of P here. We'll need 2x, meaning that we will in fact need 4,000 items in here. But that is the first request and supply of the stuff in my base via train. As I drop a thing off of my desk. Now that's gonna move, so now I have to be careful when I go about my business. Don't want to get hit by a train, of course. I'm gonna go down here to the mall-ish, just as long as I'm within range of my logistic requests, so I can have 100 of those always supplied to me at a time, as well as my locomotives and my cargo wagons. That's what I need here, because I need to essentially do this for bauxite, limestone, and all of the other stuffs that I currently have available, like, you know, plastic, supply depot, full cargo, circuit condition, you can go. Need more canisters. I might just add just one in here, one stack at a time. You are rubber. SD, full cargo, circuit condition. These trains are currently slow enough that I think having a full cargo is fine. Full cargo at a time. They are not in a rush to get to their destinations. That is for certain. Alright, you are going to be limestone, SD, full cargo, circuit condition, auto magic. Hey, give me my canisters. I need all of my canisters, all of them. Don't stop with the canisters. Come on. There you go. Bauxite, SD, full cargo, circuit condition. And the last one up will be the sandstone game. There. SD, full cargo, circuit condition. Get my stack of canister. Actually, this is not the last one. I lied. Sodium hydroxide. Yeah. That is a solid. Supply, depot, full cargo, circuit condition. I wanted to do this together just to show the general process. We don't need to be near our trains stations to get these trains placed and moving. There you go. Have fun. Have fun existing. And, yeah, you may or may not have spotted this down here. I've done a bit of exploration. I have 1276, a 905 plus 327, and my original 1430 over here on this side of the map. All the way over here. I decided to have a look to see if I could find something anywhere close by. This was the closest I found. Right here. This, 6,617% fumarole volcanic gas area. So, yeah. None of these have a yield greater than 1,000. Which sucks, actually. 1,000 is a very magical number for oil, but not for this. Not for this. This is 70.1 per second expected and 52.8 per second expected. That is not... I don't think that's reflective of the productivity that we have here. These have the same mining bonus as our regular mining drills, so they have a 20% productivity. So, you know, we get a fifth more out of this than 70.1 per second. And with speed modules, it's not even per second. You get 70.1 per cycle, not per second, it's per cycle. And we've got 15% more mining speed on this. So, yeah, we do more than one cycle per second. But I think with that, folks, I am going to call it here. I need to go out and I need to get this guy fueled for the caustic solution. So I will do that between episodes. When we return, it will be time to do the lube at scale, because we have methanol for our methanol canisters being made at the fuel stop. I decided, you know what, let's make this area our lube as well, to save me some effort overall, because I'm going to want lube. I'm stuck. I am going to want lube for my iron processing, which will be the next thing that we do as a major build together, scaling up of iron, because we have a new iron processing setup. We can do the iron 2 at this point, which will involve crushing iron. And yeah, that's what I want to do going forward. SD, full cargo, circuit condition. With that, folks, I would like to thank you all for watching. This has been Otaku Showboat. If you have enjoyed today's video, please be sure to do all of the social and engagement stuff down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you have not yet subscribed, and hit the notification bell. Consider becoming a member of the channel by hitting that great big blue join button and supporting on Patreon at patreon.com/otakushowboat. If you're so inclined and able, I will be back when I am back, and I will see you all on the next one. Thank you.